Hey, and welcome to the Meditations and Musings podcast. I'm Elena Lipson. I'm a mama, I'm a wife, and I'm the founder of the Divine Self-Care Circle membership and the Virtual Retreat Academy. I don't believe that you have to sacrifice your body, your health, or your family in order to create true abundance and prosperity. I believe in living based on the divine feminine metrics of success, and these include pleasure, play, ease, grace, and a slower pace. Each week, I'll bring you 1 to 2 new episodes. One of these will be a guided meditation that you don't have to do on the meditation pillow, and the other will be a conversation to help you access your inner wisdom, to ignite abundance, and inspire others to do the same. I invite you to join me on this journey back to the magic of a divinely aligned and well cared for you. And now, join me for today's episode.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Meditations and Musings podcast, where we dive into all things self-care, to living in your body, to listening to your heart, your soul, to understanding that you are the vehicle, the number one asset in your life, business, and the bedroom, and you are so worthy of your time. Today's episode is part 3 of our homeschooling and entrepreneurship journey. I have been blown away by the comments, the downloads. These last 2 episodes have by far been my most downloaded so far, competing with some of the really cool meditation episodes I've had in the past. And I'm just so thrilled that you are interested in learning about this journey, in maybe connecting with the idea of doing something different in your life and then having to deal with the personal, social, familial repercussions that come with that. So before we dive in, I wanted to just thank you for being here. Thank you for following this journey. Thank you for being a listener of my voice and this podcast. Wherever you're listening, I do invite you to let me know that you're there, leaving me a comment, a review. I would love to have the conversation. I know I'm sitting here in my closet with my microphone and my notes, and I am talking to you, and I would love to know what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and your reactions to this conversation. I really, really intend it to be a conversation versus me just sitting here talking into the microphone. So before we get started, I wanted to, as always, share one of my favorite sacred rituals from the 66 Sacred Rituals Journey, which is a 66-day audio journey to help you get grounded, get centered, reconnect with your body, with the power of listening to your heart, your mind, your spirit. And today, I actually just practiced one. So this is the one I want to share with you today. And I want you to really, this is more of a directive. It's not one that we're going to do together here. So there's no music, no meditation music today. But what I just did, it was kind of a self-love ritual. And what it entails is basically to gift yourself a few moments in the morning or in the evening of massaging your own body with oil, with lotion, whatever feels really good to you. And to start off with, you can choose by doing your feet or your hands. But what you're doing during this particular ritual, and I go into specific detail during the actual audio ritual when you're listening to it, but the basics of it are that you are taking time to really connect with your body, and not just connect with your body while you're thinking of the next thing that you're doing, but really giving yourself an opportunity to thank that body part for all of the things that it does for you. So for example, if I was massaging my feet, I would just, take a deep breath. I would get present with my body, and I would look at my feet as I'm massaging them and just say, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to dance and walk. Thank you for supporting me all these years in every place that I wanted to go. Thank you for being strong and sturdy and healthy, and just really taking time to feel your energy go to your feet. And you could just do the same thing with your hands. You can massage your hands and say, thank you so much, hands and fingers, for writing, for drawing, for creating, for holding, for hugging, for cooking, for all of the myriad of things that your hands do for your body. So as you're doing this, you can just feel yourself swell with the gratitude and love that we normally don't speak with ourselves that way, right? We normally are telling our bodies to be thinner, to be stronger, to be whatever, to be more or less whatever we want them to be. And this is an opportunity to change that relationship, to really connect with your body and yourself in a sacred way. And that's what all of these rituals do. They help you reconnect. They help you add meaning in a very simple, powerful way. Like last week, we shared the lemon gratitude water meditation. And the week before that, I shared the feet on ground. Each of these are a simple practice that you can add into your life that bring meaning. And there are 66 of them. So I've had clients that go through this program and actually literally reset it, or they do it as a kind of a cleanse every year or every few months. And when you do get the 66 sacred rituals, they are yours for life. You can download them onto whatever device you want to, and you can do it as many times as you want. So just for being a devoted listener to this podcast, I want to gift you a $10 off coupon off of the 66 sacred rituals. All you need to do is go to either follow the link that's in the show notes or head on over to elenalipson.com/66 days. There's another ritual that you can find there, and you can also go ahead and follow the purchase process and get $10 off. Don't forget to enter that coupon code is podcast. Uppercase, lowercase, it doesn't matter. Just enter the coupon code podcast. Alrighty then. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and dive into part 3. Just as a quick reminder, in part 1 and 2, we talked about the 5 stages before we decided to go into homeschooling and what I really thought was most important, which was the fears and the hell no that I felt. That was the stage that I was in the beginning. And then I went into the reframe, asking myself how I can be even more expansive with my business and as an entrepreneur while being a homeschooling family. That was a huge reframe for me. The 3rd stage I went through was really understanding that I needed a support team and that it was up to me to ask for what I need and what I want in the entire process, but also in my life. And the 4th stage I went through was really rewriting that social indoctrination that made me feel guilty for doing something different, that invited opinions, unwanted and unprecedented unwanted opinions. And I had to really understand that my main goal was to get clear and confident in my own self so that I don't feel the need to defend myself. I can speak with confidence and ease. I can choose to talk about it or not, but I wasn't coming from a place of having to educate other people because I felt like they had to agree with me, which they don't. And the 5th stage of that part 1 was really letting go and getting present to what is and just easing up on myself and just trusting that I can take that advice that someone gave me, which was give yourself a year to really just relax and to sort of lean out of what we had been going through in terms of being in a regular school system, which is, lots of expectations and lots of boundaries and lots of containers and time and rushing and all of that. We had to let those melt away a little bit and then redefine our own. And then in part 2, I shared the 5 stages that we were in during this first year, which was 1, really learning to trust the process and trust each other, and knowing that we had to stay in constant communication of how the process was going, but also allow the process to shift and change as needed. The second part was really learning to embrace and enjoy the freedom of our days and understanding that the goal of homeschooling was not to recreate a school day that we had been experiencing, but instead to really ask ourselves how we wanted to create it based on the life that we want to live. Stage 3 of the part 2 was the intense joy and the intense doubt, understanding that it was part of the journey, that there's going to be moments that we are so grateful that we did this, and then moments that we're going to doubt that we're doing the right thing. And both are perfectly normal. And that it was really important to have a community around myself of other families doing this, that we could have these conversations. And that's what I'm creating right now. Stage 4 was back to that social indoctrination, which was, I don't need to explain myself to anyone, neither do you. You are going to make choices in your life that aren't going to align with other people's agenda for you, whether it's a positive agenda or a negative agenda. And you just really don't need to explain yourself, which is why it's so important to just really sink in to your own choices, to align with them, to be confident and be very clear with yourself why you're making the choices you're making. And once you have that clarity, once you have that confidence, and you might still wobble, that's okay, that you don't need to explain yourself. So once I really understood that, that helped me a lot. And then the fifth stage of part 2 was the path is going to be windy and it's going to teach you along the way. So the best laid plans that we have for homeschooling sometimes work out perfectly and sometimes they don't. Sometimes topics we intended to explore turn out to be redundant to something we've already done. Or my son is very, very interested in fishing. So that's going to be a lot of our spring and summer. So, he educates himself on a very deep level when he's really interested in something. And so I don't want to take that away from him and say, no, we have to study, the Pacific Northwest geography. But in the meantime, he's really interested in really, really getting into fishing. So maybe if I can find a way to weave that in, that's great. But if not, I have to just kind of let go and understand that he is learning, he is growing, he's on his own path. And then we're going to get to the other parts sometime else. So really allowing the path to teach us as well. So those were the first 2 parts. Now, part 3 is I am taking time to reflect on this year that is almost over, and we're making decisions now for next year. So it's very important, just like in entrepreneurship, it's very important to pause on a weekly basis, even daily basis, weekly basis, quarterly basis, yearly basis, to look back and by the way, almost every stage that I went through in this homeschooling journey is the exact same stage of entrepreneurship. So like literally everything I'm talking about applies to trusting the process in myself, understanding that I'm an entrepreneur because I love freedom and there's going to be intense joy and intense doubt and I don't need to explain myself to anyone and the path is windy. Guess what? It's exactly the same path that I took on my entrepreneurial and continue to take on my entrepreneurial journey. And so today's conversation about reflecting on the past and choosing forward is exactly the same thing that I need to do and I do in my business, where I pause, I look back, I look at what's worked. So as you're listening today, just know that this is the homeschooling and entrepreneurship journey. So everything that I'm going through with this new homeschooling journey is a mirror to what happens when you decide to go on your own or start a business or become an artist or whatever new venture you're going to take on. There's this before, during, and after process that is important to recognize and be mindful of. So as we're talking about the homeschooling journey today, we're also talking about the entrepreneurship journey as well. So I'm going to share the 5 reflections that I have on this last year that really have been so empowering, so powerful, so humbling in a lot of ways as well. And again, apply to our homeschooling journey as well as to the entrepreneurship journey. So the first reflection that I made looking back on this first year is that there is so much more than one way to do things. Now, I've known this before. I've known this in many ways, which is why as a family, we've done things differently. It's the basis of why we decided to homeschool. But I've learned this on a much deeper level. As I meet different people who do homeschooling in different ways, instead of judging or comparing, I just really understand that there's a way that they're doing it for them based on their family. Just like when I run my business, I'm not trying to emulate anyone else's business model. And the more you do that, the more it's constrained. At least for me, I feel constrained by templates. I feel constrained by blueprints, but I also love to have some path to follow. So I love having a good coach and mentor that can help save me time by giving me great pointers and asking me great questions, but I also really trust that I love doing things my way as long as I take the time to truly reflect. And this has really applied to this past year where we've had to understand that, yes, we're trying this certain curriculum and we're trying this partnership program, but it's just a way. It's one way. It's not the only way. So we're not staying so firmly planted and making this work. We're instead reflecting on how is this working? Is it working for us? And so far it has been. It's been great. So there's so much more than one way is the first reflection. And that is such a mind-opening concept in other ways of life because it really does reflect on looking at other people in the world and how other people raise families and different religions and different political views and really understanding that there is not one way. Everyone has a different lens in their life. Everyone is born in a different country, raised with different family, different values, different political views, different social economical perspectives. And so if you're trying to have a conversation with someone and trying to find, make them agree with you, it's kind of missing the point. It's missing the point that everyone has a different perspective that you can learn from. And so if we can expand our minds, both to ourselves and to those around us, and to say, wow, what can I learn from trying things a new way? So that's been a huge lesson for us as I reflect on this first year that's gone by. The second reflection is I really am a trailblazer. Like, I love doing things my own way in life, in business, and in the bedroom, which is what I teach. And I'm not just teaching it from a perspective of knowing that I'm a trailblazer, but I am really embracing it. I'm allowing it to penetrate my cells, my heart, my bones, my body, in that I don't need to check with 10 other people to decide what I'm going to do. I need to check in with myself because I am connected to my source, my higher guidance. I'm connected to my own values. I take the time to ask myself and to answer. And so in that way, I become a trailblazer in my own life. I don't need to do it the way my parents did it or another family does it or anyone else. I get to blaze a trail with my family, in our business, in the bedroom, meaning, in the bedroom is a whole other conversation, and we will have another episode on sacred sexuality because it's something I really talk about, but it's another important element of doing things your way, of really understanding and taking ownership of your desires. And so our desire for freedom as a family, our desire to try something new, has really made us a trailblazing family because we are doing it our way. Now, we're not alone. There's a lot of trailblazing families out there who are choosing something different, and I admire that. I really want to emulate that sense of freedom, that beautiful questioning of everything, and not assuming that life has to be one certain way. So really reflecting on and owning and celebrating the fact that me and my family, we are trailblazers and we are going to do things our own way. So that's been really, really beautiful. And again, applies very, very strongly to my entrepreneurship journey where, yes, I've tried to do things other people's way, and sometimes they hit and a lot of times they miss. But when I really listen to how I want to show up, what I want to talk about, how I want to be as a business owner and as a leader and as someone who is out there trying to make a difference and help people transform their lives by taking better care of themselves, I'm a trailblazer. So yes, there might be other people talking about self-care and talking about embodiment and talking about becoming your number one asset and putting yourself first, but they're not me. And I have my experience, my life, my perspective, and I'm going to really claim that. So that's been huge as well. The third reflection that I had is, one of my intentions for myself in this last several years was to really connect more with my own heart and to open up to what my heart really desired for my life. Not so much what other people desired, not so much what the marketplace thought I should be doing, not so much what society tells me to do, but what my heart really wanted to do. And I think what I reflected on most during this process is that my heart opened wide to my son, to my husband, and to myself on a really deep level over this past year. And what I mean by that is I feel like it gave us an opportunity to really see each other and to really honor and witness each other and to really notice. And this was a huge one for me, but I noticed right away, as soon as we started homeschooling, how often I distracted myself from being present. And it just didn't fly in homeschooling. Like, it just did not fly. If I was half-heartedly in the lesson and meanwhile over here trying to finish a blog post or, engage on social media or do something for my business and trying to homeschool my son, it literally became a shit show. And I just had to open my heart to being fully present, which has, as a side note, has become one of my greatest values. Being present, being fully present is one of my top core values, because from that, your relationships blossom, your sense of productivity blossoms, your presence to magic and opportunity and possibility blossoms. And so my heart really opened wide to being present with my son, with my husband, and with myself during this homeschool journey, because I feel like we unplugged from this little bit of a hamster wheel that we were on, which was just sort of letting society tell us what the next step was. Whereas now we have to be very engaged with the process and really ask ourselves what we want the next step to be. So that's been beautiful to witness, and also applies very deeply to my business. If I'm very present with each client, if I'm very present while I'm writing the newsletter, if I'm very present while I'm recording this podcast, then I'm opening myself to the possibility of divine guidance, of really being inspired in the moment versus feeling like I'm trudging through something, which gives me energy. You know, the things that I want to do, the things that I stay really present for give me energy. When you're running through your day distracted, you're going to end your day feeling super, super drained and questioning whether you even got anything done. So that's been a huge one. My fourth reflection from this year is that, you know what? Kids are inherently whole and brilliant. And sometimes the best thing to do is to simply get out of their way. So this one is a big reframe in terms of looking at kids as if they're these vessels to be filled with information and right virtues, versus seeing kids as beautiful, brilliant, whole, and we are offering them opportunities to expand and learn new things based on being their guides and their mentors. And they're not broken. They don't need to be fixed. They don't need to be trained into some way of being, but we're here to model a way of being a present, open-hearted, wise, but also vulnerable, imperfect person. And if we can model that for our kids, their own brilliance is going to shine so brightly, it's going to blow your mind. And yes, they make mistakes. Of course they do. We do too. But if we can adopt this understanding that kids are inherently brilliant, and sometimes we just need to get out of their way. Like when I give him an assignment to draw a character and make up a story, I don't give him too many guidelines. I want him to really get into it himself. And the cool thing is he comes up with things that are better than I would have ever imagined. And when we're doing writing and when I'm guiding him and going deeper in his writing, yeah, I'll give him ideas in terms of maybe how to develop a character or how to add texture and multi-sensory experience in writing, but I'm not going to tell him what to write. And I'm not going to criticize him in a way that I don't want to be criticized, because honestly, I can hear it when I criticize him, which I've done. It's kind of like the way I talk to myself sometimes, and I don't want him to have that voice in his head as much as possible, which I know he will. We're all human. But in terms of allowing him to just explore and unfold within the containers that we create for him and within the boundaries, you know, I think it's really, really important to not put our own insecurities, our own shortcomings onto our children. Just because math was super difficult for me, I don't want it to become difficult for him. So I was very clear to not tell him too many sob stories about my own experience, because that's all they are. They're just stories. Someone along the way told me that I was better at writing and reading and creativity than I was at math, and I heard that. And I just didn't develop that skill set, but I know if I sat down and did it, I really could. So that was a huge lesson as well, which means that I'm assuming that I was inherently brilliant as a kid too. And I just didn't have, I didn't have the opportunities that, that maybe my son's having now to explore certain things. So I just have to be easy on myself and pass that along to my son as well. So the fifth reflection is that, again, our life, our way, as always. And granting myself this permission is really, really powerful. And I invite you to do the same, to understand that this is your life, your way, and that you can grant yourself permission to make choices based on your desires and your values. And if you're making choices based on fears or what you think other people are going to say or think about you, then maybe it's time to really press pause and to explore that, right? I don't know what the right answer is for you. You do. And that's how I coach my clients. When we are talking about creating a program or designing a calendar, a lifestyle based on your desires, I'm not going to tell you what your desires are. I'm going to ask you good questions. I'm going to help you to reflect with yourself, to be challenged in a new way, to break out of your ruts, to challenge the norms, challenge the social indoctrination, but you're the one who's going to create it. So our life, our way. And I celebrate that so much that we were able to make a decision, as scary as it was, to create a business plan and a homeschooling plan that works for us. And of course, there was some bumps in the road. I had to adjust my schedule sometimes. In the middle of all of it, my husband got a promotion, so he started traveling a little more. So things are going to happen. Like, those are normal, expected life bumps and hiccups. It's how we respond to those. So yes, there were times where I had to change my phone calls with my group for my membership for the Divine Self-Care Circle. And yes, there were times where I got sick and he had to take over. And so all these things are going to happen, but we're always doing it in our own way. So I grant you permission to really maybe pause. And if these 3 conversations or just today's conversation have triggered something in you, have awakened something in you to say, I wonder how life would look if I really made choices based on my own heart's desires. And you start journaling and exploring and maybe finding a mentor to talk to, I think you might surprise yourself in new possibilities, new ideas, new ways of seeing your work in the world, new ways of seeing how you do things with your family. Now, again, I'm not promoting homeschooling here. I'm not promoting that you pull your kids out of school. I'm just saying that this is our journey. This is what we went through. And I will share with you what we're deciding to do next year. And I think in sharing these last 3 parts of the before, during, and after, you're getting a sense of that it went well and it's okay and it wasn't perfect, but I'm really curious to see how it moves forward. So we are deciding to homeschool again for next year, which makes me a little nervous. Again, I feel like I have to go through part 1 all over again, like the fears and the reframe and the support team and all of that, but it's okay. I feel like, okay, we've got some history. We've got some wind at our back now. We have some decisions we've already made. That all feels really good. I don't know what it's going to be like to homeschool a 7th grader. I don't know. I really don't know how my business is going to grow, but I'm intending, just like this year, for it to grow and expand even more, for me to be able to refine and release things from my business that I don't want to do and really focus on the things I do want to do, which is writing and this podcast and growing my membership. And so if I can just keep those beautiful intentions in place and to really continue to do what I was sharing that you do, which is continually check in, which is to have a process to say, like, is this still working? How does this feel? Trusting the process, right? So if I can continue to do that with myself, with my son, with my husband, with my business partners, I trust that it's going to be not just okay, it's going to be amazing. And there's more to learn. So cheers to the unknown of what's next. And I would love to hear what you thought of this process. I would love to hear what resonated for you. I would love to hear what you're doing in your own life that's pushing you to live at your own edge, because the divine feminine way is not about fitting into some template. It's not about looking what everyone else is doing and doing that. It's about being engaged with your soul, being engaged with your body, being engaged with your mind in a way that is healing and nurturing and allowing for flow, but also having this strategy in place that comes from a place of being present for your own opinions, being present for your own life, speaking your truth, but not having to convince anyone else of your own opinion, right? It's about this really beautiful inner strength that begins to bloom when you are living from these divine feminine ways, when you are understanding that you come from a lineage of women who have created amazing things, that you have this ancestral past, whether you're familiar with it or not, of women who have sacrificed things, that have not been blessed enough to live in a time that we have access to information and connection and community and opportunity. And oh my gosh, the possibilities are endless. You can literally decide to become an artist today and post your artwork on the social media networks tomorrow and get, sales. Like, that has never been done before. Even when I started my business, I had to make business cards and go to meetings every week and hand out business cards and shake hands. Now I can press record on Facebook Live and my voice and my message goes out to thousands of people. I can create this podcast and have over 8,000 downloads in the first few months. It's phenomenal. This is an incredible opportunity, and I want my son to experience the expansiveness of this opportunity as well. So I invite you to really feel the enthusiasm that I have for the time that we're living in, even with the darkness and the shadow and all the things that are happening in the world right now, and the people that need to just be shaken a little bit and say, we are all human. We are all here to be one. We have to, it's almost like we have to go through the darkness and the shadow and to really awaken and to awaken to a new way of being, a new way of doing things that is not about everyone doing the same thing and everyone thinking the same thing and everyone believing the same thing. It's about honoring our differences. It's about really being mindful of the choices that our ancestors and our families have made and questioning those. Is this right? Is this relevant? Is this what I believe? And so the journey is, I'll tell you, it's not for the faint of heart. It's for those of us who are here to speak our voice, to stand up and be willing to defend ourselves, defend our brothers and sisters, and to really create this new way that I can see. And then part of this, raising a child who can ask good questions and stand up for himself and really be confident in who he is. My hope and my dream and my wish for him is that he becomes part of this national, international, global community of people who can raise us up, can make things better. So I know it's a lot to put on the shoulders of a child, but it's only my inner belief that he can be whatever he truly wants to be and contribute in a way that's positive. So that's what I got for y'all today. I would love to hear your feedback. Please do leave me a review, and you can always find me on Instagram, Elena_Lipson. Send me a message there. I'm there all the time. And I wish you a blessed day. And I wish you, strength of heart, strength of your soul. And I'm just really blessed and humbled and grateful to be part of your journey. So thank you so much. You go and take amazing care of yourself. And I will see you for our next episode of Meditations and Musings. Have a phenomenal day.
Thank you so much for listening and learning about the new divine self-care way of being in your life, business, and the bedroom based on the divine feminine metrics of success: pleasure, play, ease, grace, and a slower pace. If you're ready to bust the myth of overwhelm and tap into an inspired start to each day, I've put together a free video series for you to help you start each day with energy, inspiration, and ignite that inner pilot light which attracts joy, magic, and synchronicity. You can access my 3-step magic morning practice to help you ignite your inner light and attract the abundance that you're craving. Head on over to elenalipson.com/gift. And if you enjoyed this episode, I would so love if you share it with a friend, a sister, a mother, a daughter, and please leave a review. That is how the magic starts to ripple out. Here's wishing you a day full of beauty, magic, and divine self-care. I'll see you next time at the Meditations and Musings podcast.